Annabelle Higgins and the Nursing Student Case, 1968. Though the three Annabelle movies are made-up stories, the real case handled by Ed and Lorraine Warren was actually scarier than what you see on screen. It all started in 1970 with a nursing student named Donna. For her birthday, her mom gave her a Raggedy Ann doll, just a soft, harmless toy. Donna shared a small apartment with her roommate, Angie, and at first the doll was nothing more than a decoration on her bed. But soon, things got weird. The doll started shifting around, its arms and legs in new positions, sometimes showing up in different rooms, even behind closed doors. Then came the really creepy part: notes. Donna and Angie began finding scraps of parchment paper with messages like, "Help us," and "Help Lou," written in messy, childlike handwriting. But here's the creepy part. They didn't even own parchment paper. Things escalated when Donna discovered what looked like blood on the doll's hands and chest. Freaked out, they called a medium, who said the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins wanted to live in the doll. Feeling sorry, Donna agreed. But that turned out to be a huge mistake. Their friend Lou ended up being attacked, once choked in his sleep, and another time scratched across the chest. That's when Ed and Lorraine Warren came in, declaring the doll wasn't haunted by a child but controlled by something demonic. They took it away and locked it in their occult museum, where it still sits today. The Perron family haunting, 1971, The Conjuring. The Conjuring is based on the real story of the Perron family in 1970. They moved into what seemed like their dream home, a massive 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. But soon after settling in, strange events began to happen that no one could explain. At first, it was little things. Carolyn Perron, the mother, noticed the broom would disappear or show up in strange places. She'd sweep the kitchen, only to find random piles of dirt reappearing. Scraping noises echoed near the kettle when no one was there. It was as if the house had a mind of its own. Before long, the 5 Perron daughters started seeing ghostly figures. Some seemed harmless, but others carried a dark, frightening energy. Carolyn later discovered the house's troubled history. Several people had died there in tragic ways. Children drowned, one person was murdered, and others had taken their own lives. One spirit, Bathsheba, seemed especially angry. Andrea, the eldest daughter, believed this spirit hated her mother and wanted her gone. As the activity got worse, Carolyn reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. They came to investigate and held a seance. During it, Carolyn was reportedly thrown across the room during the session, speaking in strange voices and seeming possessed. Roger Perron, horrified by what he witnessed, demanded that the Warrens leave. The family endured the haunting until 1980, when they finally moved out, ending the nightmare. The Amityville Horror, 1975, opening of Conjuring 2. In The Conjuring 2, the story opens with a chilling flashback to one of the most infamous real-life hauntings, the Amityville case. We see Ed and Lorraine Warren investigating Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s murders, walking through the house when Lorraine is suddenly struck by a terrifying vision of Ed being stabbed by a sharpened tree branch. This scene quickly suggests that the Warrens were tied to Amityville, connecting it to the same dark universe of supernatural events explored throughout the Conjuring films. But what really happened in Amityville? On November 13, 1974, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. picked up a rifle and killed his parents and 4 siblings as they slept inside their home at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York. He was arrested the next day and sentenced to life in prison. The brutal murders shocked the nation. Just over a year later, George and Kathy Lutz moved into the same house with their 3 children. They lasted only 28 days. The family claimed the house was filled with disturbing activity, like whispers, cold spots, strange odors, shadowy figures, and objects moving on their own. To them, it felt like something evil still lived there, but not everyone believed their story. Skeptics argued the haunting was exaggerated or even completely made up. Decades later, the Amityville case remains one of the most debated stories in paranormal history. Was it truly supernatural, or just a piece of folklore? It's not confirmed yet. The Enfield poltergeist, 1977 to 1979. The Conjuring 2, The Enfield poltergeist is one of the most famous real haunting stories out there, and it's the creepy case shown in The Conjuring 2. It all started at 284 Green Street in Enfield, North London, between 1977 and 1979. Peggy Hodgson was a single mom living there with her 4 kids. At first, life was normal, until it wasn't. Late at night, they began hearing strange knocking and scratching sounds from the walls and ceilings. Chairs slid across the floor on their own. Toys flew across rooms. And sometimes, they'd hear deep and growling voices, like an old man speaking from nowhere. Soon, investigators Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research showed up to look into it. They recorded the sounds, took notes, and even neighbors claimed they saw strange things too. The scariest moments came when Janet was said to levitate off her bed, and when she began speaking in a raspy old man's voice, calling herself Bill Wilkins, a man some believed had died in that house years earlier. Not everyone bought it, though. There were many theories about the kids that they faked a few things for fun, and skeptics think the media attention made it all seem bigger. In The Conjuring 2, the Warrens are shown battling demons and saving the family, but in real life, they only visited briefly. The movie turned the mystery into full-on horror, far beyond what really happened. The Smurl haunting, 1980s. The Conjuring. Last Rites takes its inspiration from the real Smurl haunting, but turns it into something darker and more dramatic for the big screen. At its core, it's the same chilling idea. A family tormented by a demon for years, desperate for help from Ed and Lorraine Warren, while fear slowly eats away at their lives. The real haunting started back in the 1970s, in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Jack and Janet Smurl moved into a duplex on Chase Street with their kids and Jack's parents. At first, everything seemed fine, but soon, strange things started happening. Tools would vanish, odd stains spread across the walls, and awful smells filled the rooms for no reason. Appliances that weren't even plugged in suddenly caught fire. At night, dark shadows drifted through the house, and Janet began hearing strange voices. By 1986, the family couldn't take it anymore. They called Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. Ed claimed he felt an evil presence in the house, saw a dark figure, and even noticed the temperature drop suddenly around him. The Smurls also described terrifying events, like unseen hands scratching them, loud screams in the night, and even violent physical and sexual attacks from something they couldn't see. But not everyone bought the story. Skeptics argued there was no solid proof, and some believed stress, or even Jack's health problems, could explain what was happening. In 1988, the family finally moved out, and later owners said they never experienced anything unusual at all. Arnie Johnson and the Devil Made Me Do It case, 1981. The Devil Made Me Do It case is one of the wildest real stories in the entire Conjuring universe. It got its name because it was the first time in U.S. history someone tried to use demonic possession as a legal defense for murder. That person was 19-year-old Arne Cheyenne Johnson. On February 16, 1981, in Brookfield, Connecticut, Arne stabbed his landlord, Alan Bono, to death during a sudden fight. But the story actually started months before the murder, and it's even creepier. Arne was dating Debbie Glatzel, whose younger brother David, just 11 years old, had started experiencing terrifying things. He saw shadowy figures, heard strange voices, and objects would move by themselves. The family was terrified, so they called Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. After witnessing what they believed were signs of possession, the Warrens agreed that something dark had attached itself to David. Arne stayed close during these events, and at one point, he claimed he challenged the demon to leave David alone and take him instead. He later said that the demon accepted, and that it eventually pushed him to kill Bono. In court, his lawyer argued Arne wasn't in control because he was possessed. The judge refused to allow that defense, saying it couldn't be proven. Arne was convicted of manslaughter, sentenced to 10 to 20 years, but served only about 5. Maurice Frenchie, Theriot exorcism, 1980s. Maurice Theriot, known as Frenchie, came from New Brunswick, Canada, and his story is one of the darkest threads in the Conjuring universe. In the 1980s, he began saying that something evil was inside him. He claimed to hear strange voices, feel dark urges and believed he was being tormented by a demonic force. His family grew frightened, and even local priests stepped in, trying prayers and blessings to help him. Eventually, Maurice went through exorcism attempts because he was convinced a demon had taken hold of him. For a while, things seemed to get better, but the calm didn't last. Over time, Maurice's behavior reportedly became unstable and violent. In 1992, while separated from his wife, he attacked her and then ended his own life. It was a shocking and tragic end to years of fear and chaos. In The Nun and The Nun 2, Maurice appears as Frenchie, and his story is turned into something even darker. The films show him slowly falling under the control of the demon Valak, and tie his possession into the larger Conjuring storyline. But most of those dramatic events were added for the movies, and his real story was already haunting on its own. The Conjuring Mirror. In Annabelle Comes Home, there's a strange old TV sitting in the Warrens' museum. When Daniela looks into it, she sees flashes of the future and gets completely frozen, like she's been turned to stone. It's one of the creepiest moments in the movie. Tony Spera, who is Ed and Lorraine Warren's son-in-law and now runs their occult museum, later explained that this TV's idea comes from a real item in the museum, called the Conjuring Mirror. According to Spera, this mirror once belonged to a man in New Jersey, who tried to use it to contact the spirits of his dead family. Every night, he'd sit alone in a dark room with only a red light behind him, staring into the mirror's glass and quietly calling out, "Please, come talk to me." He did this for nearly 2 weeks. Then, one night, he claimed terrifying, distorted faces began appearing in the reflection. The visions were so horrifying that he had a complete breakdown and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. Spera said this practice is called crystalmancy, which means trying to summon spirits through reflective surfaces. After the incident, the man's family begged the Warrens to take the mirror away, and it's been locked in their museum ever since, sealed away with Annabelle and dozens of other cursed artifacts. And every single one of them is part of something much bigger. A chain of hauntings, possessions, and battles with evil that connect every story. See how it all fits together in the entire Conjuring timeline. Explained in 13 minutes.